Welcome to the Sacred Healing Podcast, where the old is new, the ancient is innovative, and the forgotten is remembered. We believe that sacred healing is your birthright. Join us on each episode as we uniquely, authentically, and mystically dive into the bold and vulnerable life of many magical humans. From breath, spirituality, shadow work, and all things in the esoteric realm of healing, we don't leave any stone unturned on this bold journey of growth as we start to explore the remembrance of what it means to be human. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and let's get sacred.
Hello, sacred beings. Welcome to the podcast. Today's guest is a Colombian-American love and intimacy coach, a mental health counselor, a self-love advocate, a world traveler, and a spiritual seeker. She helps people bridge the gap between their ordinary, everyday connections to something that's much more meaningful and fulfilling. More specifically, she teaches people how to cultivate self-love and become their ideal self, which has proven to set the strongest foundation for attracting their ideal partner. For those already in partnership, Danielle works with couples on creating sacred union. She's based in Atlanta, Georgia, and teaches clients across the globe through virtual sessions. Enjoy this really juicy conversation with Danielle. Ooh. Mm. Ooh, it always feels good.
Yeah, we're grounded.
Right before we dive into all the deepness and the darkness and the lightness and all the things.
I love deep conversations. Let's see where this goes.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna go many places. I can already feel
Good,
it.
good.
And it's actually daytime where I am. If you can't tell, it's daytime. It's so dark in here. I have all my lights on. It's
Mhm.
just Massachusetts gloom today. I don't know what's going on, but
Yes, we
normally
have
it's
the
like
room.
60 degrees, and like yesterday it was 60, and I was like, oh my God, spring has sprung. And then today it's like boom.
Yep.
So here we are. I'm kind of in the darkness, but all good.
I
Um,
mean, same.
yeah, but okay, beings, welcome to the Sacred Healing Podcast. This gorgeous woman in front of me is a Colombian-American love and intimacy coach, and we met through a beautiful container. And I we met through the breath, actually. We met through breath because we were weaving in container with each other, but hadn't really deeply connected until somebody, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but somebody told you to come to me to talk about doing somatic breath work while being pregnant. And that's when we first really like locked eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this gorgeous being in front of me? And so we'll dive into all of that and more, but just thanks to the breath for bringing us together. And welcome, Danielle, to the show. I'm really honored to chat with you today. And also, I'm excited to dive even deeper into your story because you and I haven't gone there yet. So I'm excited because this is going to be new information and it's going to go where it goes. So I'm really excited for this journey, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been very excited for this.
Uh, yeah, me as well. And since I kind of already went there, why don't we dive into the breathwork experience? And I believe this was early in your pregnancy journey. And I mentioned that brought us together because we hadn't deeply connected yet. And then when we were kind of eye to eye and we were chatting about the process of a really intense, deep somatic breathwork experience while being pregnant, you were kind of like, well, am I supposed to go all the way? Right. And so we talked about kind of really feeling into the feminine and the womb energy, and really that soft, like the softening mother energy and the nurturing energy. And your life partner was in the container as well. So it was kind of like, well, he's going to breathe for 3, and you're going to be the receptive, nurturing mother that gets to like really mother your body and your little baby. And so that was a really beautiful experience in itself. And I want like to hear how that went for you, because you and I haven't even caught up about how that breath work actually felt and anything that came through for you. And also, I saw recently that you posted something about how our gorgeous angel-voiced beauty friend Vailana came over to you and facilitated a sound ceremony for your baby. So let's dive into those 2 things, the breath experience, how that went for you, and then also the vibration and sound frequency experience and how that impacted you as mother and mother energy and baby.
Absolutely. I want to preface this that our first connection really was in Montana because we were next to each other for the breathwork portion of the Montana experience.
True. Yes.
Yes. And you stood out to me because you had the same outfit as Vailana. And I was like, these are the cutest outfits ever. Apparently the breathwork ladies get cool outfits.
Oh my God, that was so funny because I showed up that day and I was doing the first breathwork container and then helping to facilitate the second. And so when I showed up, I was like, oh my God, we have the same outfit on. I was like, well, how did this happen? And it's hilarious because those robes that we were wearing are actually double-sided. So I was like, I'm just going to turn mine around so it's a different color than yours.
It's incredible. It was perfect. But I felt drawn from that. I was like, oh, she does breath work. Like there's something, like there's an offering here I'm curious about. And that, honestly, I want to preface that breathwork experience because it kind of ties into this one. I was in my own zone. So if you were yelling or anything, I had no idea. I was in my space and I was kind of sitting, I was laying back flat and my legs were in the bridge position. And I was kind of like undulating my hips. And it was wild because as I was undulating, it was more like this Eros connection where I was experiencing sex with like past life lovers, just one after the other, thousands of years back. And it was just all this love and Eros. And then all of a sudden I'm pushing out and it's pushing out all the children that they gave me, all these carnations, all my children. And that was so beautiful. And I can feel more of the intensity, a little bit more pain, tapping into that, tears, but like primal tears. And then it was a realization of all these lives had passed, and then was crying because I lost the lovers of that era, right? That the child and the father of all those carnations. So it was like this grieving process to like give me closure of every single carnation going forward, right? And in this space, I'm like actively have been calling in my children for like since 2021 when I met them on medicine journeys. So it was like definitely transitioning into mother mentally and spiritually. So going into the Sedona experience, I was actually wanting to time the pregnancy where I wasn't pregnant. I was going to conceive in Sedona. That was my plan. On like, I told everybody, I'm like, I'm conceiving in Sedona on a vortex. They're just like, okay, we'll hold space. But me and Luke went to the jungle in Colombia, did ayahuasca, and we wanted to conceive with the medicine still in our system, like following that when we got home. And it just happened like that, Lionsgate portal. So I went to Sedona pregnant. The only experience I wanted really was the breathwork experience so I can fully go in again. But I knew the pregnancy wouldn't allow that, and I was okay with it. I was very welcoming of it. So when I went to you, I was just like concerned if I breathe too fast, maybe I will cause harm, right? So I was really curious what to do with that. And the suggestion of just being present and kind of onto the side to not receive, because there's a message to not receive whatever is being exert it from the other people, just create my own little boundary bubble. So it was a lot of prayer, a lot of like creating my own sacred space. And then Luke was right to the left of me as like this warrior king energy. To just lay there and experience everyone's energy was beautiful to witness, especially him and Sean next to him. They were like going through this warrior king initiation. So I felt like it took me back to like a timeline where we were, I don't know, warriors, tribes, something very ancient. So there was something peaceful about it too. I just felt completely safe in my feminine.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, so
Yes.
this is juicy. So this kind of started in this Montana breath work. You
Mhm.
had all of this remembrance come into your body from past lives. You went through a grieving process. And to me, that, you know, I won't speak for you, but it sounds like you are clearing your womb to make space, right? To make
Yeah.
space for that new being to come in, and be able to hold that, because it's like, okay, let's clear out all of what's not necessarily going to serve me in this lifetime, and let's create this space for the new baby that wants to come in. And that's so special, because that's the clearing, and that's the making space and the preparation of the womb, right? And then you're like, I want to get pregnant in Sedona, and nothing ever goes to plan, right? So you get pregnant before Sedona, which is so fun. And how many weeks were you at that point? Because you weren't really
16.
showing.
I believe 16.
Yeah, quite early. And yeah, just creating that. And for people listening that might be pregnant and want to do breath work, I've delivered breath work to many a pregnant woman, and it's okay to come to breath work when you're pregnant, but there is the discernment, right? And you talked a little bit about that, like maybe going off to the side, not being, you know, totally near everyone else's energy that they're expressing, because not that it would come on to you, but you don't want it to take you out of your experience, because you're not going to be breathing as deeply. So it's more of like a really in-depth meditation, right? Which you can have and experience visions. And because the music is so lively, and because there's other things going on in the space, you get to have that cool experience too. So you still get that experience. Excuse me. And so you create that kind of like container for yourself. It's like the container within the container. And you mentioned you kind of like made your own little altar for yourself. And then having your partner right next to you, so powerful, especially for women that are pregnant, to have their partner with them. Typically when people come into breathwork in partnership, I'm like, don't be near each other. You go over there, you go over there, unless you really, really have been through the depths with each other in medicine or other types of journeys. Like, have your own experience, right? But if you have been through the depths together, sure, sit next to each other, because you won't be taken out of your experience. Because sometimes when our partners and the people that we love the most, or, you know, sisters, brothers, siblings, mothers, fathers, when we're next to them during an experience, sometimes we can get taken out because we want to be the nurturer. We want to take care of that other person, right? So kind of a long-winded way to say you set your container properly, which is so beautiful. And thank you for trusting, because I know you got guidance from me. I think you also got guidance from Anahata.
Yes.
One of our other like beautiful witchy breath workers. Who's like everyone's grandmother. I love Anahata. She's like, she reminds me of Grandmother Willow from Pocahontas. Like that is like, she is that. She's that tree. So yeah, you received some guidance from her. What did she mention to you about breathwork? What was her guidance for you?
Yeah, she was, because she saw me looking at the flyer of her like breath work, or her facilitator, shamangelic healing facilitator program. And then she was telling me about it. And then when I mentioned I'm pregnant, she's like, okay, so let's just pause this, because if you increase your heart rate too much, or you remove the oxygen and the blood flow going to your womb, it might affect the baby. I was like, okay, how should I breathe? She's like, just breathe as you would, like deep, like just slower, deep breaths, and just try to connect to your baby. Just put your hands there. She's like, and then kind of create a safe space for yourself, because there will be a lot of energy moving around the space. And he's a pure soul. You don't want to attract anything towards that pure soul.
Yeah, and one of the things that you just mentioned, that she told you to really connect and physically connect, like put your hands to your womb, really connect, deeply connect. And then Vailana came over and did a sound ceremony for you and your baby. What was that like? Tell me about that.
It's wild because when I've connected with this baby before, I've always thought it was going to be the daughter, because that's how medicine showed me, is the daughter comes first and then the son and then the daughter and the son. So I was really fixated on a daughter, right? But all these women were picking up on boy energy. So I wanted to see what I picked up on. But I didn't pick up on gender. I was just picking up on like love, pure love. And then when Vailana comes over and she's playing, it was she sounds like an angel. So I was just like imagining this beautiful angelic being in my womb and like being surrounded by the feminine angels, love, just it was just bliss. That was my favorite part of the whole experience for sure. And when she was playing, she's like, "Did you hear where my voice did this?" She's like, "I feel like that's connected to boy energy or something." She was like, she was picking up on a lot of boy energy. And then she was saying she had this certain sound where she started from. She's like, "This is the frequency of what your son's connecting with, is this frequency." And I was like, "That's the frequency I play when I do my sound bowls." So it was like just super aligned with that one.
Do you remember what that frequency was?
Yeah.
Was?
Let me see. I have a little bit of a cold, but it's like
Oh. And does your bowl have a name for it? Like does that frequency have a name, like a note associated with it?
I want to say D because that's the first thing that came to my head, but I really don't know what that's based off of. Maybe a memory of what she said. My bowl is a 432 hertz F sharp, but I choose to sing that note. Not that it's the same sound or resonance. It's just I feel like it vibrates well together. And when she said it connects to him specifically, that made sense to me.
Hello, sacred humans. Quickly, I want to share with you something I've added into my daily rituals that has me buzzing, and that is Rise Mushroom Coffee. Rise entered my life through my Instagram algorithm that obviously knows what products I like, and I gave it a try, and just wow, it has amazingly delicious flavor. Not only this, they also have a mushroom matcha powder. Mind blown. And they're filled with superfoods and super mushrooms. What I like about Rise is that they use 100% organic ingredients, and their mushroom farms are located in California. If you've always wanted to try mushroom coffee but haven't yet pulled the trigger, this is your moment. And there is zero risk because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're interested in the deliciousness of Rise mushroom elixirs, head to the show notes and you will find a link for 20% off your first order. Or simply use the discount code Jessica, all caps, at checkout. That's JESSICA, all caps, at checkout. And now, let's get back to our amazing episode of the Sacred Healing Podcast. Okay. Well, now I have more questions. Okay. So you mentioned that you and your partner did some medicine journeys together where your children came to you. So let's chat about that, because I think that that's a unique experience, and it's really synchronistic because I talked to our good friend Dr. Nick a few weeks ago, and we talked about how his baby boy came to him in a ceremony but didn't come to his wife. And so it doesn't always happen, right? Like, this isn't like a PSA that if you go do a ceremony with plant medicine, your baby's going to come to you and talk to you. Like, no. So I think it's really rare and unique, but also synchronistic that Dr. Nick felt his child during a ceremony. So what was that like for you? What was that experience for you both, for you and Luke?
It's probably one of the most profound experiences of my life thus far. The next will be actually birthing them into existence. But the way the medicine showed me, it was my second ayahuasca journey, Luke's first, and it was in Florida. And I took the medicine. I'm very visual with my psychedelic use. He's more just thought based. And I don't know if he was connecting yet, but I just feel so comfortable with him. So I was making whatever sound I wanted to. And I was, let me see, I was losing my breath. I couldn't breathe for a bit because it was so uncomfortable, the medicine. And then I just started like finding a different breath, but with that breath was sounds. Like sound was coming out. And I just kept going with the sound and it became a language. So I found this entire light language. I just went with it. And as I went with it, I had these clear visions of Atlantis. Like I just knew it to be Atlantis. And there was this dome room, and I knew I was like a priestess, or I worked as like a healer. And Luke was there in like a different form, but I knew it was Luke. And our son was with him. And our son was like 14, and they're both warriors, like they were like decorated. And our son looked at him with such admiration. And then there was another younger son, like 7, looking up at his brother with admiration. And I was just so in love looking at all 3 of them. And then I couldn't breathe. And I started, and then all this water poured in front of me. And I started sobbing because I was like, I lost my culture. I lost my loves. I lost everything. Kind of similar to the Montana one where I'm like going through the grief process. And it was like so much tears that I just like couldn't breathe at all, and I felt suspended in water. And then there was peace. And then after that, like the water broke through, and I was back in my just aware of myself. And I think at that point, it was Mother Mary who appeared, or it was some kind of being, and she was like, "I'm going to show you your children." And the first one that she showed me was the daughter, Sophia, who I've already picked out her name, and I was like trying to connect with her already. So when she came to me and like I can see her essence, I recognized her. And like I feel so connected to the daughter. And then I put her in a little seed and I put her in my womb. And she's like, "Oh, I'm ready to come when you're ready, Mom." Because I wasn't ready yet. I was ready mentally, but not, well, I was ready spiritually, not mentally. And then after her was our son, Alexander, who's currently in my stomach. He came as like a 7-year-old independent little warrior boy. And I was like, he's like, "Okay, I'm next, cool." It wasn't like much of an interaction. And then there was this girl named Serafina. She's more like a aloof kind of fairy energy, little introverted bookworm type energy. And then there was Thomas, which was like this bonus boy. I was like, I didn't even pick out that name. I picked out the first 3, but that last name, I was like, all right, Thomas, here we go. And he was just like a special little boy. I don't know why, but he was special. And later in that ceremony, when the Taita starts singing, he channels words and song, and he was singing about the seed of the womb. And then Mother Mary, it was just like, oh, well, that's divine. This is absolutely happening.
Was he singing in Spanish, or was he
He was singing in Spanish, and our translator repeats it in English. The woman that helps him, she's this beautiful Colombian mama energy.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's from there on, it was a lot of Sophia messages, very present. And then Alexander started coming in closer to the conception date. And even my friend was like, I gave her like 0.5 grams of mushrooms during one of our ceremonies. And she's like, "There's a little boy following you. Like, he really wants your attention." And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. And then I was trying to connect with him. Like, "You want to come first? That's fine. I welcome whatever baby wants to come." And then after conception, it was kind of like the signs shifted to just more like, you're in your 3D, like just work on your body, work on your health, getting your nest in order, basically. It wasn't like clear images and messages of children. I was really wanting that. So when I went to Sedona, I was kind of seeking that from others. I was like, what gender are you picking up on? Or I was like looking for the magic outside of me, which I learned later on, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all inside. It's all inside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how those names came to you and what spiritual significance those have, because those are spiritual names.
Yeah.
So how did you choose those? And of course, Thomas was kind of chosen for you. So what research did you have to do there with Thomas?
Right.
And like kind of in the order that you met Sophia and Seraphina, right? Like, whoa,
Mhm.
what a cool name. And Alexander, like Alexander the Great, like there's been so many famous Alexanders that have
Yeah.
been warrior archetypes, like you mentioned in your previous vision in Atlantis.
Yes.
Which doesn't faze me at all. And it's actually so funny because I'm reading the book, what is it called? It's Edgar Case's On Atlantis. I don't know if you're
Oh my
familiar
God.
with it, but
I'm not
um, yeah, it's a really, really beautiful book. And if I would get it if you're having visions of Atlantis.
for
I haven't
sure.
had visions of Atlantis, and it's been one of the most like exposing books on the ancient technologies that may have been used in that era, because Edgar Case is this guy, and not to get us too off topic, but he's this basically one of the first known psychics of the modern world. And he's since passed, but his son ended up publishing all of the, like, not all, but some of the excerpts of his psychic readings that have to do with Atlantis. And since those readings have happened, like in the 20s and 30s and 40s, some of those findings archaeologically have been discovered. And he didn't know when he was alive during his lifetime. They were just visions. So it's so interesting, just like to kind of uncover and unpack all of that. But yeah, I think you would really enjoy that book because there's a lot of visions of what was going on at the time, the technologies that were used, people of that time. So anyway, side note on the Atlantis shit. But yeah, let's get into the names. Let's get into how you came to these names, and then also I'm interested to hear more of like what Luke got downloaded during that ceremony, like what went on there, if anything, with in terms of like receiving information about babies.
Yes, absolutely. So Sophia, let me see. Me and Luke were getting into learning about Hellenic gods and at the same time, just different gods and goddesses. And he liked the name Sophia, and I was like, oh, I've always loved that name. My dogs have always been named Sophie. So I love my dogs so much. My mom named them all. Like we lost a few of them, but we just kept going with Sophie because that's like our dog.
Oh my gosh, the dog would pass and then the next one would be the same. The
Yeah,
same name.
actually, I
I
think we
love
did
that.
that one round actually, but then our computer password was always Sophie.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been a special name to me. I don't care if it's the same name as a dog. I think she'll be fine with that because the dogs in our house are treated like children. But the goddess Sophia, when I was learning about her, the like how she represents wisdom and all of her like the archetype forms that come with Sophia, the snake, and it like I was just like, this is the name, like wisdom. I think that wisdom's the most powerful, enticing um form of magic to like reach out to. Like over like having strength or beauty. I'm like, I want wisdom. I'm all about that. So Sophia was like, absolutely. Alexander is Luke's middle name, and he loves Alexander the Great. He loves the warrior king archetype. So that was an easy choice.
You guys
Seraphina,
watched that Netflix special on Alexander the Great?
we have.
Oh my God. My husband and I watched that together. We were like, what's going on? Oh, it
It's
was so
incredible.
good.
The fact that his mother said, you were born of a god, you are basically a god. He was like unkillable until the end, which was like the way he died was so random, but wild. Just feeding into that, you are divine all the time, and how it
Yeah,
actually manifests into true power.
absolutely. And he believed it, right? And that's the thing
Mhm.
too. Like it came from inside. It wasn't anything else. Like he truly believed that. Um,
Yes.
and then to kind of pause before we get into Seraphina too, like you mentioned Sophia, the wisdomic power of Sophia, but Sophia is also the sacred feminine, right? Like she's the
Mhm.
spiritual woman, but she's also the sacred feminine. And so that's interesting that she's kind of popping in too as kind of like pick me, right? Like she might be next, right? Like she will balance the energy of the Alexander warrior energy, right? Like she's a really good balance for that energy.
Absolutely. Well, immediately when he came first, I was like, he wants to protect his sister. And I got a recent reading from a channeler, and she's like, oh, he wants to protect his sister. She's very free flow energy, very curious, like almost too curious sometimes. I was like, she's me. Oh my God. I know what rabbit hole that will lead down. She needs the boy to be like, hey, sis, let's not look over there. It's gonna be dark. Absolutely, because wisdom, it's like, oh, what's the dark magic look like? What's the light? You want to know everything.
Yeah, she's the wisdom, right? She's the seeker of knowledge. She wants to know everything. So she's gonna look under all the rocks and try all the things because she wants to know all the information. But then the Sophia and like the older archetype is like the medicine woman, the ancient, the elder, the one who has all the wisdom, who holds the wisdom and has integrated and embodied it. Right. So that'll be an interesting journey for you as a mom to mother that child.
Yes. I think with the Kabbalah, it's Sophia's the mother. She's like the divine feminine of all, right? She birthed us all into existence. And I'm seeing a lot of this theme of return of Sophia. So it's like there's a Sophia coming back. It's the divine feminine, right? And my little Sophia is like the special form of that I'll get to experience, but the whole world's experiencing the return of Sophia at the same time.
It's so good. And then Serafina came through.
We were watching his Dark Materials, and this powerful witch in there is named Serafina, and I just loved the name. I felt like they both, Sophia and Serafina, I just thought that they would align. There wasn't much thought into it, but when I asked the child about it, she liked the name. So, I mean, the amount of years that will pass before I can actually meet her, we'll see if there's a change in it, but that's the one that resonates still. And for their middle names too, I got those Sophia Rose and Serafina Snow. And there's like this children's book called Snow White and Rose Red and Snow White. And they're sisters and they have this unbreakable bond. So that'd be kind of a cute middle name.
You are the embodiment of Snow White, by the way. You are like her in form.
I do sing to the deers in the backyard.
Oh, I love that. That's really special. Yeah. And I love that you're also not married to it, right? Like if it changes, it changes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't want to define their existence. I want them to, I just want to be a guardrail and a protector, but like let them teach me and like just live out their purpose. I always like when I meditate, I'm like, I'm here just to help you live out your purpose, right? And I'm humble enough to learn from you.
And then Thomas came in.
And there's Thomas. I was like, oh, hello. A lot of children.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's special. I was like, okay, cool. And they're all special, but they wouldn't say what kind of special. So I was like, okay, we'll just go with it when it comes. And when I saw him in Atlantis, he's just a sweet little boy. Like, I think he's my baby kind of energy, like the youngest. And that's what I'm picking up on. But when I connect with Alexander, actually, in meditation, and with intuitives, they say don't baby him. He's like independent. Just treat him like a boy, like a man. I was like, when you're a baby, I'm babying you, but I won't like coddle you if you fall. Like you can get back up. That's fine. But I will be kissing your chunky little feet and like using a baby voice. Like I have to have that experience.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna be like the mom, don't embarrass me. Like that
I had a dream about that.
It's me. Get away.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's really special because again, I will say it's rare and unique and really beautiful for you to connect to these beings in a journey. And so what did Luke experience? I know he's not here to tell his own story, but I'm sure he's shared with you what his experience has been and if he's connected to the kids.
Yeah. Well, on the ayahuasca journey where I connected with them, he was going through more of an initiation of his like of like connecting with Christ conscious energy. Trying to balance humble, because sometimes with the medicine, it shows you are the one, right? We are all the one. We're all connected to the source. We're fragments of the source. And essentially we are the one because we are God, right? That's how I believe it. but medicine shows you are the one, and you're like, oh, some people take it like I am the one, like that's it. So he was like getting those messages and trying to navigate it with humility and like understand that. That was his journey. And the next night was like the full circle of that, of like we're all the one. But like tap into your own like greatness. But with connecting with the children, it hasn't been as clear with him. I'm more the mediator of that. But his most recent mushroom journey, he said that he connected with our son.
Mm.
And he connects with them, but just it's like he's thought based. So it's like an intuitive download versus visually seeing them. It's just a different experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, and as you mentioned, like we are the one, and sometimes medicine kind of shows you kind of not always what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, right? In every experience, like you don't always get exactly what you want, right? You get what you need, or what is the best serving for you. And I think that experience that a lot of people have, that like I am the one energy, or like, oh my gosh, am I like the like Jesus reincarnated, or like what,
Yeah.
like where to come, like what is this, right?
Mhm.
And it's the interpretation of that download in the 3D, because like sometimes you go up to that fifth dimension where like anything's possible. It's the
Right.
realm of all, but then you have to come back to the 3D and actually integrate that into like everyday life, because we all come from the law of one and it's unity consciousness, but then there's the uniqueness of who we are and like what we get to bring
Mhm.
into the world. Like you said, our greatness, our gifts. So it's kind of like there's the download and then there's the integration of the download. So integration is so important. And I know you guys do so much work around that. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's really special. Kind of going back to you preparing to be a mom, a new mom, what has been the prep around mothering the womb? What has been the prep around mothering yourself and your body and giving yourself grace and all the things that come with it? I have not had biological children yet. I know it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And so for me, I'm really trying to call in that energy. But I'm Aries and I'm fire. And I like it's for me, softening is so like, oh, it's a practice. That is a practice, because I'm like, power yoga, vinyasa, like, let's go. Like
Everything's
I'm that
peace.
energy.
Hmm.
I'm having to soften and listen to that feminine voice and have that nurture come in. And so I'm curious how you have been softening into this experience.
Yes. It first starts for me with mentally accepting the archetype of the mother, like embracing what that means. So that would include everything I do that I love. Like I create a life of peace that I love, right? The people I surround myself with, the environment, everything, I aim towards peace. So how to see and people, when you say you're pregnant or thinking about children, they love to be like, you'll never sleep again. You're gonna lose yourself. All these horrible, like,
The negative, all the negative, right?
I know, like, why are you cursing me? I know it's hard, but it doesn't have to be horrible. Come on now.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
was
when
just
I talk to
envisioning,
people about that, they're like, "Oh, geriatric pregnancy." And I'm like, "Come on, like,
so horrible.
just stop, right?" Like,
Right?
and also, like, and that comes from their own trauma, of their own
Yes.
epigenetic, like, archetypal challenge that maybe they had through their own birthing experience. And you mentioned that you listened to my episode with Shannon, and we talk a lot about birth trauma. And so a lot of
Mhm.
women carry that, and then they, want to express it and they don't know how to release. And so sometimes they just express it onto somebody else's experience because that's all they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that energy comes out a lot, I feel like, when you're a new mom and people want to warn you about things, but it's like, hold up, it can also be this beautiful experience as well.
Yeah. Becoming a mom is tapping in. You have to tap into some essence of warrior because you have to not receive so much, including from the doctors, right? And just, yeah, the world telling you something because this is your most connected version of yourself. Like you're forming this being, he chose you. I heard that like the neurons of this child, like you're forming them, so it's also like the neurons are coming back into your mind. There's some kind of forever connection to do with our brains, with our children. That's why mothers can sense what's happening across the earth if their child gets hurt, right? So there's this, yeah, it's having the inner knowing and like not receiving what doesn't resonate as true foundationally, right?
Yeah, having the discernment, right?
Mm-hmm,
Take what
mm-hmm.
you need to take and integrate what you need to integrate, but like you said, have that warrior bubble around you to shield what you don't necessarily want to call in. Today, I want to share with you all the delicious cacao with a K drinking chocolate. Cacao is one of my favorite brands of ceremonial grade cacao and is a delicious addition to my morning routine. Cacao is jam-packed with delicious nutrients that work with my body to stay energized, connected, and focused. What I also love about cacao is that they are a nonprofit on a mission to protect the native heirloom strands of cacao in both Peru and Guatemala by giving back to the farmers and communities that make it available to us. If you are interested in cacao with a K, go to the show notes and you will find a link for 10% off your first order, or simply by using the discount code Jessica, all caps at checkout. That's JESSICA, all capital letters at checkout.
Yeah, even just be like, I'm not receiving anything that's negative. I'm not oblivious, but like, let's just talk about the good. And if not, talk to someone else. I'll give you a therapist recommendation.
Yeah, and not to say that you don't want to integrate all the darkness too, because there's going to be that warrior dark energy that's going to want to come out in the birthing experience potentially,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Or that warrior dark energy that's going to want to like, fight away any other energies that are around your space. So there is the integration of both. There's the polarity of both. But
Yes.
there's also the discernment of what feels true and resonant for you versus what advice or energy doesn't feel true for you. So you kind of just have to, it's all discernment, pick through the pile, choose what you want, leave the rest, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm. But with the journey of like preparing for this, I forgot to mention it's healing your own lineage, right? The mother, grandmother ancestry. So the medicine work has been integral for that. Me and Luke last year, we started a church. So we did mushroom journeys basically every weekend. And I was always the theme of like healing that the mother wound, just making peace with any discord I would have had with my own mother, or like understanding why things are the way they are. And then also like trying to at the same time heal the womb and tap into the future, right? With connecting with these beings. And then mentally just seeing yourself living your life, but with the children, not living your life for the children, which is the misconception, I believe, of modern society, where people are just running around for their kids, getting them involved in everything, when kids don't need that much entertainment. Like being bored actually allows them to find themselves and be creative. So let them be bored and let them witness what you do and what you enjoy. It's probably much better vibration than force, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And yes. And there's also this really great, you mentioned softening, not only emotionally, physically, but also mentally in the prep around being a new mom. Have you guys decided how you want to birth? Are you guys doing conventional birth, hospital birth, home birth, water birth? I don't know if you want to go down this road, but I'm curious.
Well, I would love to do home birth, but the first baby, I'm just more called to doing a birth center to be safe. But the birth center is very particular with who they accept. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. But my second option is this hospital that is more holistic, it seems, from what they advertise. So they have the birthing pools, you can give birth there, free birth, delayed cord clamping, skin to skin, which is more common nowadays to find anyway. But this it's not like a place I have to like fight for that. It's just a given. So that'll be the first choice if the birth center doesn't happen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I have a doula who's like spiritual, so I'll have her set it up with crystals and battery operated candles and all the things.
Perfect. Yeah, make a little altar.
Yeah, like it's literally a portal of energy that's open in that space. So the least amount of lights and interference. I truly believe it's going to be psychedelic and primal, and I want to just completely embrace it the way I do with ayahuasca journeys, which is like allowed me to kind of tap into the difficult transition and like just the ebbs and flows of a difficult medicine journey into the bliss, right? So that's how I'm embracing it mentally.
I can't wait for us to do another episode after you've gone through this ceremony. And then we'll chat about once you're settled, of course, like then we'll chat about kind of what that experience was for you, because it might be the ceremony of the lifetime. So
it could be.
I'm excited. When is your due date?
May 5th.
Okay, coming up.
Yeah, we'll see who shoots.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna put it on my calendar. May 5th, so Taurus. A Taurus.
It's the Taurus. He could very well be an Aries though, because a full term is 37 weeks.
That's true. You're on the cusp.
I know.
To be determined. So you mentioned healing lineage, and so I want to double click on that for a moment and talk about some of your Colombian heritage and your upbringing, and kind of you mentioned you've been to Colombia, so kind of connecting back to culture and heritage, and what's that been like for you? How's that process been healing for you, and what's been kind of the cultural pearls that you've picked up that you're like, yeah, this is really cool?
I feel like I've been denied my cultural like roots, which I connect the most with the indigenous Colombian roots. I even did like the DNA test, and I do have indigenous Colombian roots, and it showed me the region. I was just like, yes, because I've always just felt so drawn to tribal living and their like how they support each other and raise children and everything that they do. But how I was raised was very Christian conservative in Colorado. Like my mom married my dad at 19 and moved to America. Like he was American. He went down there. They met 2 weeks later. They got married. Didn't speak the same language. Brought her here. They're still married, by the way. And yeah, I was raised by like him and my grandma, and just very conservative mindset. Like magic isn't real. And I've always been curious about magic, but they wouldn't let me explore it or understand it. I couldn't watch Harry Potter. All the kids could watch Harry Potter, not me. They're like, you're going to become a witch. So eventually I did when I found Harry Potter at a later age, which they now love Harry Potter, not witchcraft though. And when just in the journey of magic, like witch to me is just like a person who goes off the path to like find their own magic. It's not like how everyone depicts it in the media. So it's just taking back your power to know, right? Mushrooms was the first reminder that there's something else out there, and it kind of like took away the foundation I had and allowed me to start completely fresh. And it led me to all these different roots. Now I'm most drawn towards the medicine work, specifically with psilocybin, and just different versions of ceremony to partake in, including breathwork, right? Ayahuasca, all the different modalities. And what was the other question?
Well, we were originally talking about like Colombian heritage and how you healed some of that, but this is a very interesting way to be brought up, because it's like you have this deep rooted heritage, but you were brought up in a way that suppressed your heritage, which is very, very interesting. Well, and I won't use the word interesting because it's such a bland word for it, but it's a suppression of the true expression for you to really deeply connect to the roots and the heart of your genetic code.
Right.
Together.
Right.
So, yeah, can you talk a little bit more about you mentioned you did a DNA test, kind of like a tribe that you're connected to. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's felt in your body to learn that information?
It made it feel better because I loved kind of adding indigenous garbs or jewelry and stuff, but I feel like I don't want to whitewash it or something. Right? I want to respect the culture, but when I actually saw that I have it, I was like, absolutely embracing this, right? And then to go to it wasn't the same tribe that I sat with the medicine there. But it's just still like when I looked up at the trees on the medicine, I can see all the ancestors surrounding the region. And it's like, it's my roots, right? Even if it's a different tribe, it's my roots. I felt so connected. Um, and it's just pure, like the way we stayed with the village that was dirt floors, huts, and so beautiful. There was these two little boys that were training to be taitas, and that's how the Colombians call the shamans taitas. And they were like in love with their life. They were like, we have these people come here and they just crying and they complain about not having enough when they have everything, but they're never happy. He's like, I love my life. I have everything. And he kissed a tree. He's 7. I was like, wow. And then we were playing with his broken soccer ball and 5 marbles for like 2 hours, just having a blast. And his father looks like the dad from Pocahontas. He was the medicine man. He is, I think, 68 or something, 58 or 68. Couldn't tell. He had a 6-pack, nice tan skin, missing teeth, but he had the main teeth that you need to eat steak and like a whole head of hair. And he was just like preaching about the way of life of their people. And I was like, wow, this is like the new earth model that's just been suppressed and unappreciated. And that just like gave me this whole view of like what's completely possible eventually.
Mm. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it kind of brings me back. I lived in Peru for half a year.
Amazing.
And it just kind of brings me back to some of those experiences that I had there when I was so young and just didn't know any better and didn't have a map for how to do life, but felt so connected to that area. And,
Mhm.
went there kind of on a whim. And I was like, I don't know why I'm called here, but I need to go here and explore and see what's going on, and felt so connected to that land. And I don't have that in my lineage that I know of, but I felt really connected. I felt really home there.
Mhm.
And yeah, just tons of memories flooding in. But
Maybe past
so
life.
yeah, potentially, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so when growing up with your mom being Colombian, like native Colombian, what were some of the pearls that you learned from her when you were little? Even though some of that was suppressed, what were some of the things that you saw that you picked up on?
Well, there's this trauma that Latina women I'm noticing carry with them. And it's this like dynamic of the man kind of being glorified by the mom. So he gets very egotistical and thinks he deserves whatever women provide them. And then it plays out and romantically as the Latino lover, and they can't choose one woman to stay faithful to. They just move around and have multiple families. So it's very common in my culture. My mom had to witness that. My poor grandma had experienced that, raising 4 children, but both men unfaithful, right? Doing their own thing. Like I saw my grandpa still, we went to his main woman's house where my aunt was like his daughter and she was an adult. And then we went to his lover's house. I was like, this is so messed up. So my mom always had this like, don't trust women, right? They're the ones that lure the men away because they like glorify the men. And also don't trust men because they can cheat. It was just like, it just made me less trusting of men, really. My views of love was a little bit convoluted. And then she was so young raising me, like 21, moving to a new country. So she was discovering herself and discovering becoming a mother. So it was like definitely pearls of like, she would instill love yourself. She would instill like, you're beautiful, you're smart, like you have all the opportunities, you're capable. So good affirmations. I didn't have negative self-talk for the most part and always had that foundation. But it was a lot of this mistrust that I had to learn how to navigate for others.
Mm. And now here you are as a love and intimacy coach helping other people get into union. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about sacred union, because you mentioned not being able to trust and, some sister wounding that's like inherently in a genetic code. How did you find your partnership? And I'm sure that there was a lot of, frogs kissed along the way, but how did you find Luke? How did you guys connect, and how did you really know that this is the person that you can go into the depths with, and they're going to sit in complete reverence and non-judgment and absolutely love you for every bit of who you are? How did you find that?
Oh, such a beautiful journey. I'll give you the cliff notes of it. But basically, I was um I was trying to find myself career-wise at like 20 years old, just turned 21, I believe. And I was looking for anything that could give me freedom. So working online, computer-based marketing, I was digital marketing. I found some like startup to work for to do that, but it was still in a corporate office building, 9 to 5. And in this building is a little cafe at the bottom. So I would go down there and just enjoy the sun in Florida and take my hour break. And one day I noticed a man reading. And at that point, I was having the worst luck on these dating apps. Horrible. And really like doubting myself because I just the Florida energy is very give me, and like it really glorifies fakeness, like fake body and fake features, all the things. And I'm so natural and authentic that I couldn't keep up. So I was kind of like, whatever. I'm just gonna I'm gonna put myself out there just enough, but I won't let this like affect me mentally because I don't want to keep up with this type of people. But I see a man reading a book, which I love, a man who seeks wisdom. And we had a vibe. There's like something there, like this, like eye contact and like this, somebody's gonna make a move energy. And he didn't say anything for like 5 minutes. So I was like, what are you reading? And then we had this whole conversation. I told him what I do, and he's like, oh, I would love to write for the blog that you're running. So I got his number that way. And then he called me with ideas that night. I was like talking to my brother. I'm like, I met this cute guy. And then he called me and he's like, I got this idea for the blog. Like, and he was telling me this, and I hung up and I was like, okay, that was the guy. And my brother was like, oh, you really like him. He got really excited. And then he had a girlfriend at the time, so he wasn't making any like moves. He was just talking about writing and like that kind of excitement. And since he wasn't making moves, my boss was. So I ended up dating him. And we went on it was really exciting, actually. I was like, why are we in this office building when we can just be traveling and working remotely? We have 2 other employees here. Like, let's just go. So we all moved together in Airbnbs every 3 months. Canada, Whistler, Vancouver. We went to Portland. We just hopped around, had a blast. But it was missing that depth, that romantic depth I was looking for. And I couldn't even explain it with words. I was like, we have fun together. Like, we have interests in common, but like, I want to talk deep. He's like, what does that even mean, deep? Like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I don't know, but this isn't it. And I just felt like guarded. I was like, I need to find something else. I got to shift this. But rather than like finding it in a person, I was just trying to find it in like self-discovery even deeper. So I started this counseling master's program, and it was online so I could have my freedom. And then for the actual internship in-person experience, I signed up for one in Singapore because my uncle owns a counseling practice there. And I moved there. That relationship ended. I did ayahuasca, actually, and I broke up with him on ayahuasca. And then he broke up with me on the phone. I was like, that was so much easier. I was not as brave then. But it just allowed me to be like, okay, completely single on my own, go with my journey. And then COVID happens, and I had to come back home to Florida because I couldn't renew my visa. So 3rd day there, I had an intuition to like message Luke and see what he's up to. And then he happened to be there one day only when I texted him. He's just like, oh, I'm here. I live in Georgia, but I'm here to pick up some stuff from my apartment. So he invited me to a bar, and I was like, I don't want to go to a bar. I'm not doing it. Then he's like, okay. Then he called back 2 hours later. He's like, do you want to go to a shaman? And I was like, yes, I'll drive.
So where are my keys? Like,
yeah, I know. We drove to like Kendall, 2 hours away. We're catching up. And I didn't really think it was a date. I thought we were just hanging out. So I was like completely authentic. I was telling him my views at the time, like very much in Eros, like push like I was like polyamory might makes the most sense. And I was just expressing myself as is. And he wasn't like turned off by it. He's like, okay, yeah, that's I think polyamory is natural, but monogamy is functional. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, sure. And then with these readings, the shaman was actually an astrologer. And he was saying we should be together on our charts. He's like, it makes so much sense. Like, this is why. And he was like, he pulled him to the side and was like, we're not dating. Like, this is, he's like, no, you should date. This is why. And then it was just like a really divine, like, sequence of events from that date. It was like, after that, we hung out with some friends. They were gay witches. And with them, we did mushrooms. And then he was getting confirmations about us being together. But I was closed off. I was like, no, I got to go back to Singapore, do my thing. And in the between of him like going back to Georgia and me like still dedicated to this path of Singapore, I started the self-love and intimacy coaching business. It started in Singapore, but I was really pushing it at that time because I was making TikTok videos. And I was learning about love and self-love mainly. I said you have to love yourself and have a really strong foundation if you're going to attract the ideal partner. That was my biggest push. So it was my own self-love journey. And then I created this list, this manifesto that I send my clients about how to attract the most ideal partner. I just made it. Even though I didn't have the most ideal partner, I just knew this is going to be the way. And I made the whole list. And then at the same time, Luke's always calling me and trying to court me. And we're having these deep conversations on FaceTime all the time. And one day he said the right thing. He basically was the person on my list, except I didn't know if he can travel. And I need that freedom, right? When he said he's the boss, he can travel whenever he wants. I was like, oh, you're the guy on the list. Like minus the height requirement that I don't really care about. He's not short, but like, I don't know, people just throw 6 foot on there for fun. Not a requirement. So I was like, okay, this is the guy. And then we just went full in. From that, like he flew me out to Georgia. We did mushrooms together again. And this is this like whole image of us like starting this community and like creating the new earth, like just being one of the stewards of the new earth as a couple. It was such a clear vision. And then we said, like, if we are going to date, we're intending to get married. We're intending to have children. Like our visions were already aligned. It was just so clear. Like there was no mistrust, even though it wasn't like we spent tons of time together. It was just a pure inner knowing of like, oh, we agreed to this. This is how it's going to be. And the medicine really shows you the essence of a person. So you get to like experience them at a deeper level, right? Versus just hearing them talk and seeing over time if they make those agreements true. It's like you are truth. Like you are in alignment with who you are in every version I've seen you in front of your friends, in front of your family, in front of me. So I'm going to trust that. And also like I feel in my heart this makes sense. And then since then it's just been like falling deeper in love in like different ways. And it's all been very spiritual. Like that's the glue to it. I asked him if I didn't do mushrooms, would we be together? And he's like, I don't know, because that's been the essence of our relationship.
Okay,
Which
so
I agree with.
here. Yeah, so many
Yeah.
little synchronicities and messages and little treasures along the way that you received and downloaded, but then maybe realized later, like, oh wow, that is really the thing. And one of the practices that I feel like is really helpful for the people that are listening, if you're trying to call in the sacred union, you mentioned you made a list, right? It's like, what does this person like do? What do they look like? What do they walk like? What do they think like? What are they spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally? What are they in all these categories? And it's not to say that person has to be exactly everything that's on your list, but 80% will do it, right? And then you're going to find that true connection, because also without that 20%, it would be super boring, because then you'd be exactly the same, right? Like, or you get exactly what you want. And then where's the lessons, where's the learning, and where's the deepening in the relationship when you don't agree on all the things, right? So a really cool kind of take home exercise for the people that are listening that you can do right now, right? Like looking for sacred union, or if you're looking to love yourself, write that list for you, right?
Well, the huge aspect of that is there was the list of who you're calling in, but then the second portion of it is how do you become that? So you're in a vibrational alignment with that person already. So you're fulfilled, and they enhance the experience, not that they are the cure for loneliness or anything that's missing in your life. You are fulfilling that actively.
Yeah, I love that. And I went through, this was like eons ago, I went through a Tony Robbins program. And one of the things that we did to be basically romantically fit is we wrote down a list of, the partner that we wanted to call in, all the things that we just mentioned. And then the question was, well, who do you need to become in order to attract that type of a person in your life? Mm-hmm. So then it was like the reflection, the mirror was like, oh, okay. Well, in order to attract a person like that into my life, I need to be these things, right? And so then it became the transformation of self in order to call in and attract the person that you really want. Right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the second part of the exercise, which is like, what do you not want? What are your absolute no's, right? Because then you can get really, really clear on what things you do want in a partnership and what things you don't want in a partnership. And then what do you need to become in order to attract that type of a person into your life?
Absolutely. I think we're allowed to be picky when it comes to this. This is like divine partnership. It's union, right? Don't just have a wide net.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Don't come in with a scarcity mindset. That's going to hold you back.
You mentioned scarcity mindset.
Yeah, don't go into love and calling in love with scarcity mindset, because then your net's too big and you just tolerate things that truly don't align with your soul.
Yeah. You get what you tolerate, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't already know, my husband and I own a coffee company called Gay Head Coffee. And of course, we drink our own coffee every day, and it's some of the most flavorful and inviting coffee, especially with the nostalgia of coming from a can rather than paper or plastic packaging. But I'm biased, so check it out for yourself. If you're interested, head over to the show notes where you will find a link to order your coffee today from gayheadcoffee.com. That's GAYHEADCOFFEE.com. Thank you all for your support. It means the world to us as a small business. So you also mentioned psilocybin being like a big part of your journey, and you mentioned that you guys started a church. So let's chat about that. How did you guys come to create that? Obviously, you've done ceremony together, and that's really opened up your union and your partnership and some of the sacred contracts that you've made with each other. How has that helped you guys in becoming closer, creating something together, and then also bringing that to others in the world?
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to picture when we decided to create a church out of it, because I think the biggest push was when we sat with the ayahuasca church, and we were already doing medicine with our friends as well, but we are really good space holders. Like, we stepped into these roles naturally of like, he's the man that is very grounding, sits by the fire, he's good at connecting signs. So people will be like in their journey and they say what's happening, and he's good at being like, so this was your intention, this is what you're seeing, and now these are the signs that make sense. And he's so coherent, like nature interacts with him, and the fire will spark or certain sounds will come up, and being in his essence, like in his energy, I'm also very coherent, and I see how he uses signs to navigate his life. So he's expert at like tracking, basically. And I'm like the nurturing spirit that comes in and like gives that motherly love, make sure people are comfortable. I'm like, sit in your process. Here's a blanket. Here's some water, right? But I'm going to leave you alone unless you need me. And I'll bring in sound if it feels like that's the right timing. But I guess we created the church just as a means to heal, just to offer that to more people. And that was like our 2023 year. Now that I'm pregnant, he still does the journeys and I still hold space, but it's slowed down a bit, but we still offer it. Because we just believe in medicine and in psilocybin is like this huge GPS to God, right? It's not the only way, but it's like here's a map or here's the GPS, right? I want for us, that's the way that allowed us to be the most connected.
Mm. And as our friend Aubrey says, you can have like this role mate relationship with somebody where you both play certain roles, and then you can have the like whole mate scenario where you're kind of deepening into this more connected, emotional, spiritual, intellectual. And then you can have your soulmate, which is like role mate, soulmate, whole mate, which is, all encompassing, integrated, shared vision on the horizon and really serving together. And so to me, that's like the encompassment and describes so well the words that would go along with something called sacred union, because ultimately sacred union could mean different things to so many different types of people. It's very hard to take that and put it into a wording. And so I love the way that he uses those three categories to describe what that like, fully rounded sphere might look like. And if there's any aspect of that missing, then it might, not be the full version of what it was, which you kind of experienced with your relationship prior, which was like, there's this, this, and this, but something else is missing. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like the depth isn't there, right? And so really with Luke being able to kind of complete that circle to say, okay, role mate, soulmate, and whole mate, this is now encompassing this whole sacred union in whatever that means for you guys. So it's really special. And so your experience now as a relationship intimacy coach, let's talk about that. Let's talk about not only relationship, because I think that there's a lot of people that help others with relation, right? In general. But I would love to double click on the intimacy part, because I've broken down this word before, but like into me, I see intimacy, right? Like how somebody can really, truly, deeply see you and know the depths of your soul. How do you help people with intimacy? And do you work with people in partnership, outside of partnership, both? How does your practice work?
Yes, I work with them in both. And I counsel and I coach, but I use the same modalities for both. Counseling allows you to work with people in your state. Coaching allows you to work with everybody. I think that I don't want to be defined by a ethical border of a state. So there's some things that will be a little bit different, which is within the agreements of the ethics code, but coaching allows way more freedom, right? Then we can bring in the medicine work, we can bring in the just different modalities. So my views with intimacy is like absolutely seeing their intimate connection with themselves, like their self-awareness and their willingness to be vulnerable, because that's going to be a huge opening for when they're actually in partnership, right? So it's a lot of for the individual work, it's self-discovery and self-love, building that foundation, and like really just embracing all of our emotions as just as information, like how to navigate it, not suppress it, and heal whatever comes up, and use whatever you're healing as your story that you're creating, not that defines you, right? So transforming the victim mindset to the creator mindset, and like unapologetically, embracing it and sharing that with their partner. So I have a lot of these people come to me and they're like so shamed about something that happened to them that they're holding on to as choice now, and like letting it define them. And really when they share it to me, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's it. Like, that's so accepting. Like, you'll be fine. But with the right person to hold space for that, that's nothing. Right. But in their mind, it's everything. So we're trying to like heal that. I use EMDR as like the main modality for that. It really helps change how someone feels about a situation, even if they logically see it's okay, I moved on. If they don't feel that way, a part of them, part of their soul is fragmented and needs to be healed and reintegrated. So once we do that, it really helps them be more open to the like full experience of love. Because with love comes great hurt, as a contrast. It's like I'm signing up for something that I could lose. It can come with grief. It will come with grief because everyone's going to pass at some point. So we're being courageous to actually embrace love to begin with, right? And then once people find love, it does, like they're like calling it in. They're so excited. They get it. They get comfortable. And then the old stuff comes in and they stop pursuing their partner. And then they come to me saying we haven't had sex or like feel connected. So it's like, okay, let's go back to the beginning. What excited you? Like, how do we take that, but like even more now that you know who each other is? So I'll go down these different categories of ways to be intimate. And I use this woman's, I found her on YouTube. She's like a therapist here in Georgia for couples. And she uses the acronym RISES, and I love it. So I'm giving her full credit, but I also use it all the time. But RISES stands for recreational intimacy. So everything you share that you do, common interests. I is for intellectual intimacy, right? Your ability to talk to each other and understand the world in a similar way. Sexual intimacy is the S, obvious, anything pertaining to sex. E is emotional intimacy, so that willingness to be vulnerable and to like express what's truly on your heart. And then the spiritual intimacy is the last one. And I'm surprised about the amount of people that are like, we're not into spirit, so we don't need that one. But they're missing out on the like soulmate ability right there. Like, but if they have the rise, that's fine. They can have an amazing connection, but hopefully the S comes in at some point, the rises.
I love that breaking down of the different types of intimacy, because we can throw out the word intimacy and ultimately some people's minds will go to like sex immediately or some sort of a physical touch, right? But there's all those other facets of intimacy that sometimes we don't get to explore or haven't explored as much. I really love that. Rises. That's really lovely. Mm-hmm. Love an acronym. Love a theme.
Absolutely.
And also, you know, when you're talking about coaching people, it's like we all accept the love that we think we deserve. And that includes the self-love, right? So it's something where if we're going to accept that type of toleration or treatment or whatever it is, that's what we think we deserve. And so, you know, if you're coaching people that are outside of partnership, in order to get them to a place where they could be, you know, truly in their like full power to then find the right and attract the right partner, it's all about what you're able to accept for your own self-love, right?
Yes, you set the standard of what's acceptable. And if you go below the standard, resentment forms, but you agreed to that. So that's kind of your choice.
Yeah, and that one really hits home too, because I met my life partner, my husband, when I was in college. Okay. So I was like young, like party, like not not in my body, really. I was living about 4 feet outside of myself. And we like had this like whirlwind romance. We were together for, I don't know, 5-6 years. But then we broke up. For about 3-4 years. I mean, we were apart from each other, but we found our way back to one another. And that separation and that breakup, which was like devastating. We were both so sad. And it was just like heartbreaking. But we went off and had different journeys and learned different lessons and found different things. And then when we came back around to each other, it was like, oh, now we're ready. Now we're ready to really accept what we fully deserve. And we're showing up as different beings, the same being, but a different version of that being. So it kind of reminds me of the, you know, you accept what you think you deserve. And when I was younger, I was like accepting this thing, you know, that I didn't deserve. I didn't. And so then coming back around, the relationship has found that soulmate and that whole mate piece to it that really has been needed.
I love that story. Like that's a perfect example of surrender, because a lot of people are like, they hold on and they're going through this horrible storm together, and like somebody clearly needs to have their own journey to like integrate whatever they need to come back. Both will have to eventually, but like when they hold on through all that and then try to heal together, but it's out of alignment, it's like it almost does more damage. But to surrender and be like, I don't know what's going to come. Like, I love you, but I don't know what's going to happen. And then it comes back together. Like, wow, what a gift.
Oh, yeah. We definitely needed to do some healing on our own.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have found our way back to each other. If we didn't take that time, it just
Hmm.
wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been the journey.
That's
But
exactly with me and my partner when we met. Like it never got that deep, but the journey we had to experience individually was profound for our healing and our integration of who we are now.
it's really beautiful. And I also want to kind of circle back around to your psilocybin experiences. So since you've gotten pregnant, have you had any journeys, or are you staying away from any type of like plant medicine until you conceive?
I did like a little tiny microdose just to have him connect with the medicine at least once, but I'm not continuing until after. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always so curious about that because again, as somebody who hasn't been like a biological mom yet, it's so interesting to hear people's different paths. I'm so open to like hearing about all the things. And it's like I don't know what I'm going to do when the time comes. It's going to be my own journey, but
Yeah.
I love the information and I love to hear about the experiences. Did you feel like that microdose did help you connect, or were you like, I didn't really need to do that, or it didn't?
No, yeah, it did. I felt like it was beautiful for the moment it serves because Luke had he's making this documentary and this ceremonial album. So we had fit for service people at our home and we did medicine journey and then we created music together. Like we set up our whole basement living room into this like sound studio where people can just feel called and like grab a microphone. And we had this like sound engineer there recording everything at the same time. So for that purpose, very much served. But it wasn't like I had the time to really connect with baby. I just felt connected with Divine Mother. That was the
Mm.
beautiful aspect of it.
Mm.
I have met children that have their mothers consume medicine, ayahuasca, and they were so beautiful. Like the ones in the jungle, their eyes, when you look into them, there was like the whole galaxy was visible. And the mom's been consuming up until 8 months.
Whoa,
And
oh my
even,
gosh.
I know, even Shannon was telling me about it, and I was super open. It's just our timing isn't going to work out because of the distance. But I was open to the idea of it for sure to bring in it helps with contractions, it helps induce labor if
Hmm.
you do it late in the pregnancy. And it really helps you connect with the heart of the baby. That's so beautiful. Because you're in this journey together. They're also struggling to get out of there. It's not just hard for mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and also breath work helps with labor as well. So if
Yes,
you're looking for breath work, that's when you want to ignite that breath.
I
And
need that.
yeah, and I think too, like the Western medicine side of the house, like has tried to integrate the breath work into the birthing experience, or like the type of breath, but it's like, if we take those full inhales and really do like a somatic type of a breath work, mm, I've heard beautiful, beautiful stories of deep breath work in birthing.
I'll need
I
to
didn't
talk to you
experience
about
it
that
myself,
later.
so this is
Good.
not from personal experience, but just stories from other people that have had really lovely experiences with birth without, any type of medicine at all, not plant medicine, not the epidural, not
Yeah.
the Western medicine, but they've only used breath and been like, wow, that was a beautiful experience.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I envision every day. It's like the power of the breath gets me to that moment of connection.
Mhm.
So happy to hear any techniques you have.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We can talk offline too if you're getting
Yeah.
closer. We can chat about that.
Okay.
So also I would love to hear about some of your other medicine journeys and maybe some pearls of wisdom that you've gone through. And maybe not even medicine journeys, maybe breath journeys, maybe some journeys that you're like, ooh, that was a really nice download. I would
Yeah.
love to hear more about some of those experiences.
Yeah. Well, one of them that I use a lot is it was an ayahuasca journey on the second night of the first time Luke and I did it together. And it felt like everybody was in hell, in like their own hells, basically. It was very cold and like isolating, even though you're with other people. And I just the only this one guy who's very vocal, and every time he would say something, it would make people laugh and it would shift the energy. So hope, like I said, humor is a huge way to like raise your vibration when you're in the depths of the dark night of the soul. And then hope, right? When you can remember something that brings you hope, right? Because sometimes you lose your ego, you lose your sense of self and like everything you're connected with, and it feels like that. I feel like that's hell. It's like the most isolating, unknown place. But if you remember who you are, you find the light. It's hope, right? So hope, humor, and then love, right? Remember that connection with this, another, or even with yourself, but in those moments with another, right? Love. Luke was very in a high place, so he kept coming back and like taking care of me. And he's like, "It's time for you to purge." And he was like being the father I need him to be when I'm laboring, just like holding me at my hair and like allowing me to be raw and primal. So I always tell people that are going through a dark spot, even in my counseling sessions, I say, hope, love, and humor are the anchors back to the light. That's what I've learned. And let's see what else. With breath work, I've learned how to bring in the feeling of ecstasy into the body naturally. For breath work, it's more just the visceral experience of like learning to change your state at a moment, right? So even in my counseling sessions, like a 5-second inhale, 6-second exhale, trying to make that the normal breathing pattern we go through day to day, helps them get into the ventral state, which is the social, connected, safe state we want to optimally be in, right? When people are in sympathetic, their breath work is all erratic, or their breathing is all erratic, and then their heart's going to be erratic, and that's going to cause a whole number of systemic issues from there, right? So the power of the breath at the foundation is like, you're not feeling good, breathe, right? And there's so many techniques for it, but that 5-second, 6-second one is like my go-to for just a
Yeah, just a little reset, right? Yeah, I
yeah.
appreciate you sharing too, because sometimes ceremony is a really personal experience, and sometimes there's the glory in sharing it, but then there's also some of those parts that you're like, no, that's just for me. That message was just for me and not to be shared, and those are special too.
Yes.
But I love that you brought it back to humor and love and hope. Like, what beautiful lighthouses for people that might be interested in doing plant medicine or breath work, or going into any type of a ceremony, a darkness retreat, any type of tool where you need to have a really groundedness, because it's going to be an intense experience. There's going to be the yin, there's going to be the yang, like there's going to be both.
Yes.
So what really nice grounding mantras to have in
Mm-hmm.
your pocket. And what beautiful pearls as well. I love that.
Yeah, and to hold space for someone in that storm, because if people are in an emotional storm and you're that voice that they can like hear, if you can bring in hope, love, and humor in your own ways that you connect with that person, it'll help them come back.
And I love that you also mentioned too that Luke was kind of being the man that you need him to be in the birthing room. So not only have you already vetted this man and you're in sacred union, but you also know what he's going to be able to do when you're giving birth. Now, we hope he shows up. Well, I'll find out when you tell me your birthing story. But like, it seems like he is that father figure, that warrior, that protector that is going to come by your side and be there for you no matter what. No matter if he needs to hold your hair back or cut the cord, like he's there, he's in it.
Yes.
So that's really special. Because I feel like sometimes I hear these stories of men who have like just never been in front of any type of turmoil or anything, and then like they get thrown into the birth room and they're like, ooh, like, what do I do? What am I doing with my hands? Right. So, and there might be some of that, right? Because it's a new experience and an intimate experience in all the ways that we've described in intimacy through rise, right? So it's like there's that experience, but then there's also like the warrior needs to show up, right? And really be that grounded, holding space for the feminine to like truly come through with their warrior and birth the baby, right?
Yes.
So it's gonna be fun to hear
about the cave.
What was that?
We call him the keeper of the cave in the tribes, because the woman would be giving birth in a cave and they would just be keeping it, making sure they're protected.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Is that coming from the Colombian lineage?
That came from a book I heard, Hypno Babies. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that a good book?
It's a great book. Actually, it's called Hypnobirthing. That's the book. And
Hypnobirthing. Actually, Shannon, I think, mentioned that one as well, that
oh,
she's read that. Um, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but she's mentioned it to me kind of offline.
hmm.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Are there any other books that you might recommend to people?
Okay, so Intimate Communion, David Dieta, is a great one about polarity, feminine and masculine energy, not gender-based, but just how polarity is actually what creates attraction in a couple, right? So that's a great book for people, individually or in partnerships. What else? You're the One You've Been Waiting For by Richard Schwartz is really good. It has parts work and it's parts work for couples. So you can still read it individually and it's going to be a lot of value, but it's how to like have the conversation, how to have better conversations with your partners, with your parts. Um, let's see what else. The spiritual books that me and Luke just like gift to people all the time include Celestine Prophecy, The Alchemist, The 49th Mystic, and the what's it called? The Kabbalion. Those are our favorites for
A little
spiritual.
light reading.
Yeah.
Here's the Kabbalion.
I know. I'm like, it's a thin book, but you gotta keep reading the page just over and over to
Oh my
understand
God. Yeah, when I mean I have never gotten through the full thing. It sits on my shelf so I know it's like integrating into my soul, but like
it.
I have to read those pages so many times for it to like sit in my body. So I'm
Yeah.
like one page at a time. Here we go, you know.
Exactly.
Um and I've also like alongside reading the Kabbalion, like also like watching YouTube videos on it too has really like helped integrate some of the knowledge there because it's like, okay, break that down though? Can I get the cliff note too? Like, because some of it's like it's hard to pull the nuggets out for me for some reason. But
Yes.
yeah,
The laws of the
dense.
universe.
It's
Hmm.
dense. Yeah. This has been such a like nourishing conversation, and to kind of bring it back around to the mother energy where we started. Um, it would be really lovely if we could maybe just like lead a little prayer for the babes. I would be honored to do that if you are open to just doing a quick meditation.
I would love to receive that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So sitting up straight and comfy, however comfortable feels in your body right now at this moment in time. Maybe taking your shoulders and rolling them back down around your spine, growing a little bit taller, making a little bit more space so that your womb and your belly can open up a little bit more. And taking a deep breath in through your nose. Little hold at the top, not too long. And then exhaling out your mouth, really slow and steady, and sending that warming energy of your breath to your baby boy, Alexander. Warrior energy coming into this earth first because he wanted to be the protector of all the other kids to come. He wanted to be the first. He has that first kid energy. He wanted to be not only the protector, but the man who gets to stand beside his dad, look up to him, grow from him, learn from him, and then pass on that wisdom and that knowledge and that embodiment to the younger siblings and stand in that power. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and sending any message that came through for you to Alexander as you exhale, slowly nurturing, because you will be the opposite energy to his energy. So you'll be able to balance each other. Really connecting to the womb, connecting to Alexander in this moment. Maybe sending him a little message. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. I see you. I'm here for you. And I am going to be the best mom to you. And thank you for choosing me. And taking a deep inhale through your nose. And again, sending that love into your belly. And feeling that breath go all the way through your body to the umbilical cord. And then weaving a white light like a strand of DNA, slowly going and connecting you to him, to his spirit, to his liveliness. He's coming soon. He's almost ready. And now connecting to you as a mom. You are already a mother. You were a mother the minute you decided to be one. Connecting to that matriarch energy and holding the inner knowledge and wisdom of what that means. And passing down genetic codes. Maybe passing down some trauma, but you've done so much work. And so he's going to get the good stuff. And knowing that as you pull down on that slot machine to all the strands of DNA that could possibly go into that little boy, you know that you're sending all the right little bits and parts of both you and dad. Connecting to that mother energy because you've transitioned. You've gone from maiden to mother. And feeling the power and the spirit and the warriorness and the uniqueness of that. You are here. You are home. You are loved. And now connecting back to that 5-year-old self. That's the only person you've needed to impress and that you need to impress for the rest of your life. And so as long as you're acting in accordance with what would make her smile, what would give her hope, what would give her humor and love, then you are connecting to what is truth in your being. And as you step out into the world as a mother, finding the grace physically, mentally, emotionally, and then finding the fun moments in the mundane. And finding the laughter when you want to feel the grief. Because there can be both. And even in those moments when maybe you are so tired, but you will feel so much joy and be so grateful. Like that little boy kicking around his soccer ball and playing with his marbles. You have so much to be grateful for. We all have so much to be grateful for. So coming back around to that warrior mother energy, that witch energy, because witch is just that which is needed. And taking a deep breath in through your nose to solidify that warrior spirit. And exhaling that warmth into your belly, into your womb, so that you know when you give birth, you will be so grounded and so in yourself that nothing else will matter. And now we'll take a deep breath for Dad, Luke, Father, Warrior. Feeling the energy that he brings, Luke Alexander, he's bringing a part of him to your little boy. There's a piece of him in there. So taking a deep breath in for that dad energy. Inhale. And sending groundedness through your belly, knowing that he will stand by your side and do everything that is possibly needed for your birth ceremony and beyond. As you grow and deepen in sacred union and partnership. We'll take one more final breath in, deep inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. I'm getting chills just talking about it. And then we'll end with an Om, because feeling the vibration of your own voice will connect you deeper to Alexander, and he'll feel the vibration and the frequency of that. And as we know, sound changes us on a molecular level. And so feeling this Om in every 75 trillion of your cells, connecting your DNA to his. The deep inhale and exhale. Coming back into your body, connecting back to yourself. Maybe wiggling your fingers and your toes. And then bringing your hands to your heart. You are wild. You are loved. You are mother. And you will bring all the things into this motherhood, the uniqueness of you, all integrated, all embodied, just as it should be, because the most sacred thing is what is. And slowly coming back to yourself and your breath, breathing normally, feeling your heart. And then whenever you're ready, slowly starting to open your eyes and coming back into your space.
Lindsay, that was so incredibly beautiful and sacred. I want to just repeat that while I'm delivering, because that was so on point.
This is recorded.
Brilliant. You said something in there that was specific to an ayahuasca visual I had, the slot machine.
Really?
When the ayahuasca showed me a slot machine and it said you are the winner, then it showed me the kids again on the most recent journey. So that was
whoa.
Divine.
That was really strange, because honestly, that just came into my brain out of nowhere.
Wow.
It just came out of my mouth. I didn't even know what I was saying. I was like, well, blacked out. I debated and I blacked out.
You're a channeler. It was beautiful.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Wow, that's even more. That seems more special. And nothing in this life is a coincidence. So it's all synchronistic. And I did not plan to do that. So it was just I was called to do a little prayer for you, and I'm so glad we got to do that. And thank you for receiving. And thank you for being on the podcast. This has been such a beautiful conversation. It's so lovely to get to know you more on a deeper level and know your soul. And I'm really excited to chat with you again after you are able to meet this little man and bring him into existence. So I'm so excited. Well, he's already here, but in the outside of the womb form. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all the work that you do with people as well. And I would love for anyone that's listening along this journey and that's, heard all of our conversation and knows a little bit more about some of your offerings. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where are you most active on social media and your website? If you could drop all that, I will link everything in the show notes so everyone can easily find all of your goodness.
Thank you. My website is DanielleJeraci.com, just my first and last name. And I'm the only one with the spelling of Jeraci with a J. So same thing on every social media platform. I'm mainly post on TikTok and Instagram. I'm more now posting on Danielle Jeraci. Lots of information about self-love, conscious living, sacred union. But I use it in terms that are more tangible to like the broader audience. I would like to bridge them to spirit without making it just about that. So it's very like you can share it. It's tangible, the words I use. And then I work with people one-on-one, individuals, couples. I do 1 hour sessions to intensive models, which is like 3 hour deep dives of like really healing trauma. So you can just find me on my website on my booking link from there.
That's beautiful. And where's your last name? What is your husband's lineage? What does Jeraci come from?
So it's Jeraci is Greek, Jeraci, and it means bird of prey. And I guess at some point when they migrated to Italy, it was changed. And I don't know why they chose the J, because G is the other, like the most common spelling of that, but J is what we got. So anyone with that last name is related to him.
That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I will link everything in the show notes. Have a beautiful birthing ceremony. And yeah, I can't wait to chat again and tell Luke I said hey. And maybe next time we'll have both of you guys on, because it would be interesting to have the male perspective as well of what that journey looks like into fatherhood. So
Oh, absolutely. And if you're ever in our region, you can be on his podcast.
yeah, oh my gosh, that would be so lovely. And it's so funny because for forever I was like not starting my podcast because I was like, well, I'm not near anyone and I want people to be in person. Then I was just like, nope, I gotta do Zoom. I just have to do what I have to do with the things that I have available to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to. And you guys are in Atlanta now?
Yep.
Beautiful. Great. Well, if I'm ever there, I will definitely be hitting you guys up. And I know our paths will cross again. So beautiful to have you on the show. Thank you, Sacred Humans, for listening. And hit up Danielle if you are in need of some coaching, because she is a beautiful soul. But thank you. And chat with you soon.
Chat with you soon. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.